secure the release of Tibetan political prisoners and pursue dialogue with the Chinese government. Sikyong Penpa Tsering represents the aspirations of the Tibetan democracy movement, which serves as an inspiration for oppressed peoples everywhere who are seeking freedom and dignity.
Excellencies, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, I can see Speaker Pelosi has arrived here already. I want to thank the NED board members, past leader Carl Gershman, who has worked very closely with the Tibetans for many years in his 30+ years of career here at NED, and the present leader, Damon Bilson, and his team for honoring us with this service medal. My name is Penpa, as you must have heard. Penpa is a very simple name in Tibetan. It's just P-E-N plus P-A, means Saturday, because I know I was born on a Saturday. I don't know the year, I don't know the month, because those days there were no records in the exiled community. So I also want to congratulate all the honorees that the NED honored tonight, and over the years they have been honoring. I am a very ordinary person. I just try to follow His Holiness' wisdom. Whatever we have today, we owe it to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He is the architect, he is the spirit behind everything that we are now or what we have today. I personally have not contributed as much as you would have hoped I had. It's just 30 years of my service for the Tibetan people, and this award is for the people I serve, for the Tibetan people, for the Central Tibetan Administration. I just want to inform you that perhaps we are the only government in exile with a fully functional democratic polity. Those of you who have been to Dharamsala have seen, witnessed the institutions that we have, our cabinet, our Supreme Justice Commission, the Parliament, and the 3 autonomous bodies of Election Commission, Auditor General's Office, and Public Service Commission. We have a cabinet with 7 ministries in India, and it's all thanks to the Indian government and the support that we receive from the US government. The situation inside Tibet, as you have seen from Tibet Action Institute's activities, points towards cultural genocide inside Tibet. Because China, when the whole world is moving towards multiculturalism, China is the only country that's moving towards uniculturalism at the expense of identities of all the nationalities inside China, whether it's the Mongols or the Uyghurs or the Tibetans. Our Hong Kong friends are also here. Taiwan is also suffering because of China. So what is going on inside Tibet and what Tibet Action Institute has reported is one part of what is happening inside Tibet, the colonial-style boarding schools. There are many, many other issues. What you take it for granted in the United States and other countries in the free world does not exist in Tibet. You just take a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and you go to jail for 3 years, at least. So that is the level of control and restriction that's happening inside Tibet. And I have been traveling around the world, telling the story of Tibet, what is happening inside Tibet. And I also tell the international community that if you repeat the statement that Tibet is part of PRC, you're going against international law, because whether it's happening to Ukraine today or whether it happened to Tibet 70 years ago, it was the same international law. And I also tell countries that on the one hand, they say Tibet is part of PRC, and on the other hand, they say, we support negotiations between Representative His Holiness Dalai Lama and the Chinese government. And I tell them, you are removing the very ground for negotiations. When every country admits that Tibet is part of PRC, then where is the reason for China to come and talk to us? Then I also ask governments, why do you think China is asking other countries to say Tibet, only Tibet is part of PRC? That is because the Chinese government knows that they have no legitimacy of their rule in Tibet. And that is why they are trying to seek that legitimacy from the international community. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank our friends in the Congress, particularly led by Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, and Honorable Representative Castro also mentioned about the Tibet Resolve Act, which is meant to promote negotiation and resolve the Sino-Tibet conflict. And this is a bipartisan bill, bicameral, and this was approved. Just yesterday, it got approved in the House through the suspension of rules to reconcile the wordings between the Senate and the House, and hopefully it'll go to the President's office very soon. And I also want to inform you that we have a congressional delegation coming to Dharamsala, led by Michael McCall, chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and Representative Meeks, minority leader in the Senate House Foreign Affairs Committee, and Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi will also be joining this delegation, and they are planning to leave tomorrow. So I have to be back in Dharamsala before they reach Dharamsala. In fact, I came this morning, so I'm still a little bit groggy. But I really appreciate this opportunity to be here and to speak about Tibet and the Tibet Action Institute and the role that they have played. Now, all we can say is we tell countries, please don't look at us only from the perspective of being a victim of communism. Nobody wants anarchy in China. But at the same time, we have to make China accountable for what they are doing. China is a threat not only to the nationalities within China, like Tibetans, Uyghurs, and Mongols, but it's a threat to the whole world. Because they are not talking only about repression, not imposing repression inside Tibet, but they want to export their system of governance in the name of global security initiative, global economic initiative, global civilizational initiative. So these are a real danger and threat to the free world, and we all need to work together to make China accountable. We are born in this world as a free person. All human beings are born to be free, not to be enslaved physically or mentally. And this is exactly what is happening inside Tibet, and we need your support more than ever before. And thank you again for honoring us with this award. And I received this very humbly on behalf of all the Tibetans inside Tibet and outside Tibet, and on behalf of all my colleagues who are in Dharamsala, because democracy doesn't happen because of one person. It happens because of everybody. Thank you very much.
And now, a video introducing the next awardee.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been a pillar of support for democracy, demonstrating time and again her commitment to human rights and freedom. As the first woman elected Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, she is a trailblazer for women in politics and a champion of equality. Speaker Pelosi has stood by embattled advocates fighting against authoritarianism and persecution around the world. She honored those who died for democracy in Tiananmen Square and has spoken out against the Chinese Communist Party's treatment of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and Hong Kongers. She has been a steadfast supporter of democratic allies, including Taiwan and Ukraine. Because of her distinguished leadership, Speaker Pelosi is recognized around the world as a fierce champion for freedom and human rights for all.
Welcome back, Democracy Service Award Medal recipient, Penpa Tsering.
Back here again. This is really an honor for me personally to be honoring Speaker Pelosi on behalf of National Endowment for Democracy. She is a remarkable lady. I am sure everybody agrees with that. And she doesn't need any introduction, particularly from a person like me. So from the time since I met her, I really appreciate her leadership and her friendship with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. When I was appointed here as the representative of His Holiness in Washington, D.C., we organized a CODEL delegation to Dharamsala led by Speaker Pelosi, and the friendship between His Holiness and Speaker Pelosi has been tremendous. When she visited Dharamsala, His Holiness was there to take her around the temples and, introduce her to all the deities in the temples. The friendship that you enjoyed with His Holiness, and now she's going to meet His Holiness on 19th again, and this will be another good opportunity for strengthening our relationship with the United States, along with other members of Congress who will be visiting. Speaker Pelosi has not only been a friend of Tibet, but she is a friend of all the oppressed people. If I have to recall Svetlana's remark, Speaker Pelosi makes dictators jittery. That's what she said. So I think whether we accept it or not, between China and the rest of the world, it is a fight between democracy and authoritarianism. And Speaker Pelosi have always stood up against authoritarianism and in favor of oppressed people. So may I have the pleasure of inviting Speaker Pelosi to receive this honor.
What a beautiful medal. How wonderful to receive it by you. Saturday. I call you Tsering. His reputation is so magnificent, so values-based, so strategic in his thinking, so respectful of the charge that he has, so clearly connected to His Holiness, and so clearly connected to Tibetans, both in Tibet and throughout the rest of the world. Thank you for your tremendous leadership. It's an honor. It's an honor to receive this award from you on the same evening when you are receiving the same award. Now, I want to thank Carl Gershwin. How many years do we go back, Carl? Oh my gosh, since the start. He has, Yeah. We were in grade school, but anyway. and then Damon Wilson, thank you for your leadership now. and Ken Wallach for your ongoing leadership of the NED. It's such a remarkable organization, and how proud many of us have to have this statue in our offices when this was the award. Thomas Marsh, you're showing us how he planned it and then made it, and there it is, a model of what was in Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square, which just within the past week, this month, we observed the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Approximately the 32nd or 33rd anniversary of our unfurling a banner in Tiananmen Square in honor of those who gave their lives or freedom for democracy in China. It's been a long time, and we have much more to do. NED has been about democracy in China, but about democracy throughout the world. And it's an honor to be receiving this award with all of the awardees tonight. I had the privilege of hearing Svetlana testify today before a congressional committee, the pleasure to meet with her yesterday, the pride to wear the pan of Belarus and freedom, along with Ukraine and freedom, so that people know what is happening there, know about her tremendous courage, realize how long her husband has been incommunicado from their family, proud of Lithuania for being a place, a domicile for her, and eager for us to organize Belarusians in diaspora in the United States, hopefully, there are many, to have an impact on our policy. The tragedy of Belarus because of the cruelty and oppression of Russia. So for these and other reasons, and you know better, I wouldn't do justice to all of the awardees to talk about them, but I'm so glad that my colleague, Congressman Castro, is on the board of the NED. He brings a whole fresh look to it all, and he has a perspective on the world. So I thought, what would I say to you that could be adequate for this award? It's so commanding, but, oh, he's not there anymore. Hopefully he's sitting down. Okay. So when you talked about my friendship with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, I was thinking I would tell you this story. So I visited His Holiness the Dalai Lama a number of times in Dharamsala. And one time when we were there, it was terrible. It was 2008 in March, right after the crackdown in Tibet by the Chinese. Horrible. And there were people coming, I don't know if they came over the mountain or around the pass or whatever, but coming to Dharamsala to tell His Holiness what was happening there. They were kissing the hem of his garb. They were crying. It was terrible. He had an interpreter. I could understand what was happening. It was horrible, intolerable, terrible. He told the other members to go have the tour, because I had been there before, but that many of the members on our bipartisan, it's always been bipartisan trip, they would do that while I would listen to these stories. Now, I tell you this because following their tour and our conversation, we went outside and had our big presentation, Democrats and Republicans, who was going to help with visas and who was going to help with appropriation, who was going to help with ways and means, whatever we needed there, whatever, all these kinds of things to help Tibetans in terms of policy, in terms of resources, in terms of visas. So in any event, we go then to lunch, and he has invited a large number, His Holiness, has invited a large number of lamas. They were young, maybe 100 lamas for lunch. Everybody makes their presentation. So when it was my turn, I told them what I had just experienced. that these people were telling His Holiness these horrible things that were going on in Tibet. And then I said what I always say. Carl's heard me say this every year for 40 years probably, or more than once in 1 year. If we do not speak out against human rights in China because of economic reasons, we lose all moral authority to speak about human rights any place in the world. So I say that. The reason I tell you this story is what happens next. His Holiness gets up again in front of the group, thanks me for my remarks, and says to the lamas, "Let us all now pray for Nancy so that we can rid her of her negative attitudes." But that's how he was, and that's how he is. And that's why he commands such respect in the world. Because as you had said, I think you want to negotiate with the Chinese government. He's always talking about praying for the government. He says, he prays for the government of China and the rest. And we all pray that they open their hearts to goodness and the rest. But he prays for them. And that's why he would have rid me of my negative attitudes, even after I heard these stories coming across the web. But in any case, we really have to salute the National Endowment for Democracy for what they have done over the years to shine a bright light on injustice, a bright light on injustice. I said today at the hearing, one of the cruelest things that oppressors do is to tell the people they have imprisoned that nobody even knows they're there anymore, so why don't they just give it up because they are forgotten. But we do not believe that, we do not espouse it, and our members of Congress are always in a bipartisan way, whether on the floor of the House or to a head of state or on a visit to a country, giving letters with the names, speaking out so that they know they are remembered and their oppressors know that they are remembered. I'll just tell you this one story about Xi. When he came to the United States, not last November in San Francisco, but when he came, it was like 6-7 years ago, when he was new president of China. I was trying to think of the year, but in any event, we had a leadership meeting with him. And Dianne Feinstein, my dear friend from San Francisco, our senator, who she and her husband, Richard Blum, were very big supporters and advocates for freedom, democracy in Tibet. She and I, in the conversation, said, we want to bring up the subject of Tibet and made our case about it. To which he said, "Oh, you don't even know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. We've done so many good things in Tibet. You should just go and see for yourself, because you'll be so surprised. It's so different from what you describe." To which I said, "Oh, well, I've been trying to get a visa to go to Tibet for 25 years. I take this as a visa that you are offering by telling us to go see for ourselves." I don't know if Jim McGovern is here or was here. He's has floor duty, and the Rules Committee is always working. He will be on our trip next week. But he was with us when we went to Tibet. We brought a wonderful delegation. We saw the room where Dalai Lama grew up, and all the palace, of course, but the room that was his personal room. Oh, it was just beautiful, that. But we saw ridiculousness. I mean, we were surrounded by security the whole time, cameras, all the rest. And the one thing, they said, "We're going to take you to see a typical Tibetan family, and you see how happy they are." So we go to the family, we go in the place. Now, how many homes have you been in where you walk in the living room is a gigantic picture of President Xi? or any president, a big picture in the living room. And the people told us how happy they were, and hearing pictures of their grandchildren, and they were in school, and their daughter would be home from work soon, and life was beautiful. So we're listening to this suspiciously, and then the daughter came home, and we said to her, "Oh, we've seen the pictures of your children. When will they be home from school?" She said, "Children? I don't have any children." So we went to Beijing. We went to see President Xi, and Jim McGovern said to President Xi, "Yes, we went to see your Potemkin village of Tibet." But that's what they're selling. He said, "Oh, we gilded the roof of the temple." And I said to them, "That's interesting. We'd rather know what's going into the minds of the children and their values, their language, their culture, again, their religion, rather than what you're doing to the roof of the temple." So we have serious misrepresentations about what's going on in these places. You all are very completely knowledgeable about what's happening in different parts of the world, starting with Ukraine a couple of years ago, now what's happening in the Middle East. But as I look at this room and all of you, I'm so impressed because I see people who care, who know, who are making a difference. Each and every one of you. Know how special you are. Champions for democracy. Champions for democracy. So, I'll just give you a quote from Baltimore, where I'm from, although I represent San Francisco. Been there over 50 years. That's where my husband is from. And by the way, he's doing fine. Thank you so much for so many asking. Coming along. In Baltimore, the national anthem was written. And with the national anthem, in it, it says, "Proof through the night that our flag was still there." To me, that is a description of the situation we're in right now. We're in the night of misrepresentations and just threats to democracy all over the world, including here. And we have to work very hard in a unifying way, in a patriotic way, in a respectful way of all of the people in order to prove through the night that our flag is still there. And as we proclaim, declare, pledge each official day with liberty and justice for all in our country and beyond. So I thank you so much for this wonderful honor. You know how wonderful the government in exile is under Saturday's leadership here. And I just want to thank you all again for this wonderful medal, which I will display with great pride in my Capitol office. Tache Delay.